Just talk about that parliamentary list. I mean, there are a couple of names that won't be there. First one that we started this week with the news was that Lindiwe Mazibuko of the DA has stepped down and she won't be a parliamentary leader next year. And there was a lot of speculation. Your paper as well wrote about that, and then Helen Zille saying maybe Lindiwe saw the writing on the wall somehow.
Absolutely. The DA is now a mainstream political party. It's a very big party now, and I'm afraid with the thousands of extra votes that comes more exposure, more scrutiny by the media, by analysts, by former party members, like one of the opinion writers, Gareth van Onselen, who wrote quite a scathing letter about Helen Zille's leadership style in Business Day this week. So yes, I think the DA has now moved into a new phase of real politics where this happens. There's been very conflicted views about Lindiwe Mazibuko's decision, but I think it's become very clear that she and Helen Zille wasn't seeing eye to eye anymore. And there's a lot of people now saying, a lot of critics saying, well, Zille was the one who pushed her, who really, fast-tracked her career in politics, and specifically then in Parliament, who supported her to become parliamentary leader when there was a contestation by Athol Trollip, who some would say was a much more seasoned and senior politician at the time. Zille backed Mazibuko, and now she's fallen out of favor and she kicks her out. That's the one view. Other view, of course, is that Mazibuko is still young. She needs to get experience. She needs to study abroad. It's a fantastic opportunity, of course, to study at Harvard. But I think this is a new phase and a new era in the DA with much more support now, almost 90 MPs in Parliament.
I like the fact you mentioned that they're going to be coming more under scrutiny now. As the party grows, the more scrutiny you're going to get. Another phase, very brief, that won't be in Parliament is that of Agang SA leader Mamphela Rampili, who last night announced that she won't go into Parliament. You know, they got only 2 seats. I've seen some tweets on social media, people saying that, oh, the Agang mess. Is it a mess?
It is. It's a big disappointment. I think the people who still voted for Agang, despite everything, must be terribly disappointed this morning. They probably wanted to see Dr. Rampele in Parliament. You know, I also imagined her being part of active debates in Parliament. You know, I was quite looking forward to seeing her participate in discussions like around education that she's very passionate about, health services, women issues. Now she won't be, so, I mean, what did you vote for in the end? Agang voters would ask. This party will just be obliterated from the political spectrum. I think nobody will take it seriously. It's sad there were some interesting names in Parliament. I still think one of the people going to Parliament for Agang, it's a gentleman called Maichi Shonga, who was a deputy DG in the Department of Justice. He blew the whistle on corruption and he was ousted. He's an interesting character. He's a very senior former civil servant, or also other senior civil servants, people like Linus Breitenbach, the former prosecutor, who's going to be in the DA benches. So they are going to add a bit of interesting and diversity to the Parliament, but it's really disappointing that Dr. Rampele didn't see a way to actually go and become an MP.
Yeah, and I'm sure EFF will provide a lot of red spice as well. Absolutely. In Parliament coming up. Moving away from politics for a while, just the platinum strike. I just interviewed Joseph Matunja, the AMCU leader, and he was saying they are ready and prepared to go back to the negotiating table, but they are pursuing their court case against the employers for having contacted their workers directly. And the situation in the Northwest, is in the Platinum Belt, has been tense for most of this week.
Absolutely. It's difficult to always understand what the high-level politics are during the strike. It's difficult to understand what AMCU really wants, what they want to achieve here. What we have done is I've sent a lot of reporters into that area, Rustenburg area, over the past few weeks. That town is dying, Dan. The town is really bleeding. Shops are closing. People are being retrenched. People, the NGOs have moved in en masse. There's food parcel projects being rolled out. Kids go hungry. So it's a humanitarian disaster playing out before our eyes in the Rustenburg area, on the Platinum Belt, because of this strike. Now, by saying that, I'm not saying it's AMCU's fault, but the situation, it's in the interest of all of the people of this country, and specifically of the Northwest, that the situation be resolved. South Africans are good at this. We've piloted this constitution by sitting around a table. Every party gives a bit, and we agree on core morals and core principles that we don't go past. It just seems that these parties cannot reach each other, and this is really a sad story. It's a disaster. It's a disaster already for those thousands of families, not only in the Northwest, but also in the Eastern Cape and Lesotho, where a lot of these miners come from, who just haven't been receiving a salary for the past 4 months.
Let's hope that is resolved shortly. Another humanitarian situation situation that has touched our hearts after 1 month is the abduction of the Nigerian schoolgirls. Now, in South Africa, it's like we took very long to get in there. But this past week, and we've seen the University of Cape Town students, we've seen Muletsane High School children in Soweto, we've seen government people. Suddenly, South Africa is waking up to the fact that more than 200 schoolgirls are in the hands of a militant group.
Yes, it took a bit long for us, but also I think for the world to wake up to that. But you suddenly see a lot of Western countries also expressing interest, sending people there. It's encouraging. I think our people, and specifically our young people, it's good that they know what's going on in the rest of our continent, that they care. Every morning when I drive to work, I drive past the Parktown Girls' Eye, and there are this hundreds of letters on their school gate, on the fence, letters of support to these girls who were abducted by Boko Haram.
Bring back our girls campaign.
How disturbing to see those videos of Boko Haram with these girls in the background. It's quite shocking to think that this thing is still happening in 2014. Hopefully we can find a way to resolve this.
And parents of some of those girls have identified them. We reported on that on ENCA yesterday. Now, as we end the week, again, Nkandla back family. It was not brought back family into the eyes of South Africa, into the discussions in our columns in the media, but the government itself has taken the Nkandla report. Is taking the Nkandla report on review. What's your sense about that?
It's my former boss, Ferial Haffiji, the editor of City Press, wrote last year in a column, we cannot walk away from Nkandla. And I think this is, again, proves that point. Nkandla won't go away, Dan, until we have all the answers. There are still some unanswered questions. Government is now taking Advocate Madonsela to court. This is an unprecedented step. This is the first time in our democracy that the government, the sitting government, is taking a Chapter 9 institution like the public, and specifically the Office of the Public Protector, to a court to challenge her findings, to say that they are irrational, that she interfered in the national security of government. Quite a cynical move, I would say. I think Advocate Madonsela's report, yes, it differed substantially on a number of issues from government's own report. Of course, government didn't say that in the beginning. Shortly after her report was released, you had the security cluster ministers saying, no, these two reports actually are the same. They came to the same conclusion. And the only thing they were interested in, excuse me, at the time, was President Jacob Zuma's so-called guilt or innocence. This is not about guilt or innocence. It is not about criminal culpability, whether he stole money or paid a bribe or received a bribe. Advocate Madonsela found him guilty of contravening the Constitution and the Ethics Code of Parliament. That is very significant, and I think that's still hurting the ANC. I think the ANC will deny this, but I think the fact that the percentage drop in Gauteng was so big, Nkandla was definitely part of that. It did hurt the party.
Yeah, okay, thank you. We've run out of time now. Thank you very much. That's Beeld editor Adriaan Basson. We're taking a quick break, and your sport and weather next.
Know more. ENCA.com